Welcome back to Enya's Relatable Randomness, and if this is your first time here, I am your host, Enya Graham-Shuish, and sitting with me here today is one of my closest girlfriends, Genevieve.
Hi.
Hey, how you doing today?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good.
I'm doing good. So, just over these 4 past years that I've gotten the chance to get to know you, there's so much to you, and you've done so many awesome, cool things, and you're up to great stuff. And how about you just share it with some of the listeners?
Yeah, for sure. So I've worked in sales for the last 10 years. I've sold knives. And so with sales jobs, you got to like make your own schedule and really be empowered to kind of like do what you want. So for the last 6 years, I've gone to Haiti and done a lot of volunteer work there. And it was actually a bunch of knife people, a bunch of sales reps. We built a medical clinic. So that's been really big to me. I love to travel and give back. And then I'm really big on human rights. And I'm really big on people having a choice in their life. And so through learning about human trafficking, I got really involved in fighting trafficking. And so, that's what I would love to do for work. It's just not a lot of jobs in that, but we're working on it.
Yeah. If anybody out there knows any jobs for my girl Jenny, holla at your girl.
Yeah, something local.
Absolutely. So today we are here to talk about the topic, say what you mean and say it with your chest. So what I mean by that is a lot of the time growing up, and even now, so I found that, especially when it comes to awkward conversations, whether it's with somebody in your relationship, whether it's with your parents, whether it's with somebody in authority, somebody maybe at your workplace, sometimes it's hard to have those conversations, and it's hard to get the point across that you're trying to say. And so the point is to say what you mean and say it with your chest. So when you go up to your boss, you're like, hey, can I get Friday off? Like, no, like, hey, may I please get Friday off? Like, have that confident presence when you show up to these conversations. And the reason that we're talking about this topic is because last week Jenny and I were on this same thing, and we were kind of going off back and forth about it. And we're like, damn, we need to put this into play. And so, what we were talking about is like, why is it so uncomfortable or so just kind of not so like not heard of?
It's not first nature.
Yeah, it's not first nature. Like, why are we so afraid just to speak up and just to say no or yes or okay? Like, for example, the other day I went to go buy something from a store, and I usually pay $16 for it. But I didn't realize, but I was buying the wrong thing, and it was $25. And so usually when it comes to those things, I'm going to be honest with you, when it comes to like money, I get kind of awkward. And so when you don't expect the total to be what it is, I'm like, oh, and I just kind of go with it anyway, because I'm like, I don't want to be embarrassed by just saying like, never mind and walking away.
Yeah.
But the truth is that cashier does not give a shit if you walk away. You know what? They would probably think in themselves, good for you.
Yeah.
But so for the first time in a while, when it came to the money thing, I actually said, you know what? Actually, I can't justify paying $25 for this. And then to find out that I actually have the wrong product. So that was just one of the times that I feel like I've really put that into play. And like, when it comes to money, it's actually the only time that I've really put that into play so much. But a lot of time, even like, with friends and relationships, and like I find a lot in my relationship, I'm trying to be like cute with my boyfriend, and I'm trying to say like, okay, let's say maybe I want to go out for dinner, or we want to like order food or something, right? I'd be like, so, like, what do you want for dinner? And he's like, I don't know. I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, Uber Eats texted me today, because Uber Eats always texts me whenever I want to order Uber, saying 30% off. Exactly. So for me, I find that I beat around the bush a lot when it comes to money and when it comes to me and my partner. And he always says, he's like, just say it. Like, just say what you're trying to say. Just use your words.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I am. Well, like, why? What do you mean?
Yeah.
But the truth is I'm not, and I'm beating around the bush. I'm going around in a little circle.
That reminds me, my friend was like, and we've been friends for like 8 years, and he's like when I say like, oh, let's go do this or something, and then I tell him like at the end, oh, well, I also wanted to do this. He's like, why didn't you just say that? He's like, why don't you just give me all the reasons as to why you wanted to do this? Because then I can be on the same page as you. If you just give me like 3 out of the 5 reasons, then I'm just gonna be like, no, let's not do that. But like, communicate. I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Little things, right? Just like,
Mhm.
just small, but like, yeah, like,
Yeah.
these are all the reasons I want to do this. Like, can we go do it? Instead of just like, it would maybe be good to do this, like, and not your full self.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't even realize I did that, but I kind of do, because it's like I'm holding this little thing in the back of my head. It's like, this could be useful to say, but like, whatever. I've already given them 3 reasons. Why give all?
Yeah, yeah.
But some people like details too.
Exactly. Why do you, like, for yourself, why do you think that you do that? Like, what do you, like, if you were to think
Sometimes
about the
it's
process?
sadly, it's kind of like, oh, maybe it's not that important. It's like, maybe it's not that important to like say all the things that are there for me, like, you know, which is just not a lot of self-love, right? It's kind of just like, you know, as you were saying, right? Like, say what's really there for you, because you owe it to yourself, right? And then you also owe it to your friend or whoever, because then they're going to be on that same level with you, right?
Yep, totally. I find the times that I have slipped up and not spoken with my chest, it's I feel like where it comes from is a place of rejection, a place of fear of the answer no, a place of judgment, and within all those, like, you know, when I finally do just ask the question, even when I ask it, I'm nervous. And I just feel like, you know, over time, when I've said certain things, obviously these feelings come about because of what I've been through, right? So over time, there must have been these scenarios where maybe I was truthful and maybe I was speaking my mind, but maybe I was getting the answer no, or being judged or being rejected. And all those things just really steer you further and further away from it, you know? Yeah. Do you find, like, how do you take situations when it comes to, like, you and somebody of authority or, like, higher power than you when you gotta talk about something?
I don't have a lot of problem with that, because I think, like, with my company, we've been it's just such a good environment. Like, no one ever feels like scared to talk to a manager about anything, I think. So I don't know. I think I've just come from such a good place from work. I'm not used to being nervous, I guess, like asking for that. But yeah, like my last position with like when I was doing work with human rights, it's, you know, it's like, okay, you're an employee now. Like, this is your boss, right? You're not like an independent contractor where you're making your own kind of like, you know, business, right? Like, you're working for someone else. So it is a little bit more nerve-wracking asking for things, because you feel like you have like your job that could be on the line or whatever, right? So I think I just would approach it a little bit more like I'm not asking because like I know the answer will be yes. I'm asking because I hope it's yes, and you know, like a little bit less of an expectancy.
Yeah.
Because it's
also,
not my business. It's
Yeah, yeah. And also asking, but also just informing. Like, if you are asking a question to your boss, but you already know what the answer is, it's also just like, hey, like, just so you know, like, I am leaving today like at this time. Not just like, hey, can I leave today at this time? It's like, I have to leave today at this time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Within reason, of course, right? Like, if you're doing things that aren't reasonable, then why are you even doing that too, right? But
Yeah.
of course, if it's within reason, you should never feel scared, really.
Absolutely. Yeah, like even today for this podcast, I got off work at 3:30 and here we are at 4:30. 4:30 took us like an hour to get ready. And yeah, like when I walked into work, I was gonna tell my boss right away, like I got a jet, like once we're done. But it kind of took me a little bit of like prep and a little bit of like getting that up there to be able to say that for whatever reason.
Because you leave late sometimes, you mean? Like
no, not at all. Just because if I were to leave early, then I would be leaving the other 3 to maybe pick up my duties or something, right? Which wasn't the case at all. Like, we just all ended up banging it out together. But yeah, no, it's very interesting. And like, also when it comes to conversations with like bosses and stuff, I don't, like, now I have gotten a lot better with it, and I think truly you get better at talking to people in authority when you practice.
Oh, yeah.
When you practice it. And like when you're nervous, obviously you don't want to do it. So you're going to make an excuse on why not to do it.
Yeah.
But
and put off that practice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you are going to always be at step 1 unless you start practicing just going and like talking to your boss, you know?
It's funny, I actually like think that my customers are my boss in a way, because it's like I get paid on my sales, so my customers are really my boss. Like, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have a job, right? So like, we have to just be like, it was actually a Cutco rep that did this message, Aaron Luden, check him out. He's a great coach. but no, he's really great. And this message was maybe like 7 years ago or something. It was when I was kind of a newer rep, and it was about assertiveness. And it was only like a 10-minute talk in this small little office. But I played it for my reps a lot when I was a manager, and it was just so like it's exactly what we're talking about. It's about being assertive. Assertive has nothing to do with rudeness or entitlement or any of those negative like kind of low frequency things. It's about being assertive, saying this is what I want, this is what I'm going to ask for, and just doing that, like, and not
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's really simple in a way.
Yeah.
So I think I really took that with me. Like I've always been a person that just says what's on my mind, and like it's easy for me to say what's on my mind because in a way it's more it gives me more anxiety to keep like the things that are what I want to say and then say something else. I'd rather just say what I want to say and see what happens.
Yeah.
That gets me in trouble too sometimes, but like I'd rather just do that because it's easier. It's easier to be honest all the time.
That's
how I see it.
And that is incredible that you're at that place with yourself, because majority of the population will tell you otherwise.
Well,
they will say it's hard to be honest.
You just get backlash, right? People are going to tell
Of
you
course.
how they feel when you tell them how you feel. So
Absolutely, yeah. Back to the boss thing, there was a story, I think I've told you the story before, about when I worked at that one restaurant back in January, and it was an insane place to work for because it was a $20 million restaurant. Like, everything just blew my mind about it, and I was like, I got this job? Me?
Yeah.
What? And I was probably like the youngest person there. And then it turned out to be a really, really, really toxic, bad, negative, abusive, using environment. And I could never have imagined that. And so I probably worked there for about like 3-ish months altogether, and only got paid, I believe, twice. And then towards the end of it, so I was hired to be a server. They didn't give me that job. They put me on as a server assistant, which, okay, working at a crazy place like that, I'll take what I can get. So I'm a server assistant, and then I come back from like the little break. There was 2 weeks around Christmas, and there's a bunch of new servers hired. And I'm like, okay. And these servers didn't even know how to serve. And I'm still being a server assistant. So I said what I had to say. And I was like, hey, I spoke to 3 different managers within about 5 minutes because they all said, go talk to that person, go talk to that person, go talk to that person. I'm like, all right. But I'm like, I'm trying to practice saying what I mean and saying it with my chest. And so I got assertive, right? I was like, hey, I'm like, so I got hired to be a server, and I'm just wondering why I'm not serving, but there's 10 new girls who look like they aren't even servers are now serving. And then they said that they would look in to give me the space to give me some shifts, but it wouldn't be until in the future. And through all this, I just got riled up. And then so one day, right before going into work, I texted my boss, and I was like, hey, are the tips ready yet? Because I'm still waiting on getting the tips. And these servers were pulling in $5,000 a night in tips, okay?
What?
Because they had, it was private parties, and they had like the richest people in Vancouver sitting at the tables. And so I found out that the servers were getting paid $1.35 on top of our hourly, which was like 11 whatever. $1.35 server assistants were making hourly when the server walked home with $5,000. So I've had enough. I walk into work, I'm furious, I'm raging. I called my boyfriend at the time, I called my sister. I think I missed calling my mom because my mom would have been like, no, don't do it. Yeah. But I called everybody. I'm like, I gotta walk in and I gotta quit. I gotta do this now. I'm like, I am being used. I'm not okay with this. My morals, I'm betraying myself, right? So I walk in and I ask one more time, I'm like, is the tips ready? And he's like, they're not. And I'm like, that's fine. I'm like, today is my official last day, and I would like my tips now. And I'm going to be like, here's the uniform, and I'm leaving. And he was like, oh, okay. So he sits down, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I'm nervous because, to be honest with you, I don't think I've ever quit face-to-face and on the spot. I've never quit a job on the spot. I've always put my 2 weeks in, or I've been fired, right? And
like, I'm doing this.
Exactly.
It's my choice.
Exactly. So I'm sitting there across from the table, and he's like slowly counting this money. And I am like raging. Steam is coming out of my freaking ears. And I'm holding the chair, and I'm like, just say it. Just say it. And I stood up, and I was like, the fact that we get $1.35 on top of our hour is effing degrading. I didn't say effing, honestly, but I'm now saying effing. I'm like, that is so degrading. I'm like, I don't even want that money. I'm like, how could you have this happen? I'm like, you disrespect your servers and your server assistants. You're not scheduling us properly. You've made a bunch of promises that you didn't keep. If you guys want to be running a proper restaurant, I'm going to tell you right now, this is not the way to do it, because of what you're doing right now. I'm going to walk out and people are going to be slashing their names just like I might be. I'm like, I'm not going to, because I'm a good person, and I'm not sitting here slashing the name of the place, right? I'm
just check out the most expensive place in
yeah, right? But I stood up and I told them off, and I said, if you guys want to be the restaurant that you're striving to be, this is not the way to do it, and I'm going to tell you here right now that this is disgusting. And the guy's face dropped, and I was like, why don't you make a change? And he was like, because I take orders from this person. I'm like, then why are you here? Because I'm like, it looks like you care. Like, what are you doing here? And honestly, he just cowered it down and put his head down. But this was in a big office meeting room when they were having a meeting with all the other managers on the other side of the table. And here I'm talking to this one. And so for me, that was the most, I think it actually is like, if not the one of the most powerful moments I think I've ever had in my life, where not only did I speak what I needed to say, but I said it with my chest, and I said it to the most intimidating people to me at that time in my life. And that's just all it is. That's just all it is about. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you're tripping up about in your head. It doesn't matter about any of those things, because the truth is if you want to say something, the only thing that is stopping you from saying that is the own little judgment thing that you got going on with yourself in your own head and twirling. It's not your heart. It's what's in your head, right? So whatever you want to say, just say it, because you're negotiating with yourself on why not to. You're basically telling yourself, you're like, all right, I'm afraid of the fear of rejection. I'm afraid of the judgment. I'm afraid of the answer no. But what is that living in that type of fear to not say what you mean and to say it with your chest? Because imagine all the things that you can miss out on your life if you don't just say something. I could have paid $25 yesterday
for the wrong
16.
bottle.
For the wrong.
You wouldn't have even gotten the right one.
My gosh. So, yeah. Say what you mean, and you say it with your chest.
I was gonna say that negotiation thing. I was thinking that when you started saying that.
Yeah. You start making up excuses in your head, and you start tripping up.
Do you want to explain the negotiation thing?
Do I want to explain it? Okay, so
you told me this like 2 weeks ago, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so when you are negotiating with yourself, okay, let's say, set my alarm for 7 a.m. All right, my alarm goes off. Anything that you do in between the time that your alarm goes off and from the moment that you put your feet on the floor, you are negotiating with yourself. Unless you actually just got up the second that your alarm went off. You're negotiating saying, oh, do I really have to go to work today? Oh, I'm so tired, I could sleep 10 more minutes. Do I really need this job? Maybe I'll call in sick. Maybe I'll do this. Maybe I'll just relax. Maybe I'll skip my shower. All of those are negotiations. And the negotiations are the things that are destroying you from achieving your goals. Right? So it's like, if you set a goal to wake up at 7 a.m. and you wake up at 7 a.m., you feel amazing. You feel great. You're happy. You're proud of yourself. If you negotiate with yourself, all of a sudden you're going to be a couple minutes late for this. You might miss your bus, and then you might be late for work. Then you might be this, and you just created the most stressful day for yourself possible, all because you made that negotiation when you woke up. And all those negotiations, they will come around at every single point in your day. You know, even coming to this podcast right now, right here. I had a huge negotiation with myself because my bike saddle had just gotten stolen off my bike, and it was raining, and I decided to still try to ride it to the bus so I didn't miss the bus, but it had no saddle on it. So I slipped in the middle of the road in front of everybody at a red light. I slipped and I landed my butt on top of the pole on my bike, and I was going fast, so I was still going. It was so painful. It was so embarrassing. And then I braked and fell back over the other way. And the bus driver gets on. He's like, oh, well, at least most of the bike's there. And I'm like, well, my bike tire got stolen last week,
That's
too.
what he
I
said.
was, yeah, which he was
So
trying
he's
to
giving you the bright side, I know, but you're like, did you not just see me bail? Like,
Yeah, he was trying to be nice, but I was like, yeah, well, my bike tire got stolen last week too, so what can I say, right? And I stood on the bus, and I was bawling my eyes out. I got home. I just ran into my boyfriend's arms. I was crying, and I had no reason to because it's not really that big of a deal. But with all these things consistently happening, it really felt like it was that big of a deal. But sitting there crying for about 45 minutes straight, and I have to do a podcast in 30 minutes, okay.
doesn't she look beautiful too, guys? I mean, come on.
Well, thank you, Jenny. Thank you. But I sat there with my boyfriend. I was like, no, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. I don't even want to see Jenny. I'm like, I don't even want to see Jenny right now. I don't want to see the boys right now. I don't want to go to the studio. I don't want to be on camera. I don't want to see the lights. I don't want to talk. I was making up all the negotiations. What? Because some bum stole my bike saddle? Now, how silly does that sound? Because
And now you're gonna let him steal your joy?
Exactly. He gets to my bike saddle, and then
You can't take both.
Exactly. and also my podcast episode.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's just.
This is our second time too.
Yes.
It's recording, right?
Oh, yeah. This is. check. This is. Oh, it's not? Oh.
Oh wow.
That was our mistake, our first podcast. Actually, my first podcast that I had ever done in my life was with this girl, and we got all dolled up, and we went into the studio in downtown Vancouver. And it wasn't recording.
Time. No, I'm just kidding. It was about time.
It was about time. But it wasn't recording, and also all the audio overlapped, so we were like saying things from 10 minutes ago to the 2-minute mark thing. Yeah. But
It's okay. We're here now.
we're here now. We're here now.
Yeah, that negotiation thing you said was really good. It's like in the moment when you're thinking like, oh, I should go to the gym, or I should do this, or like whatever it is you're thinking about, and then the second part of you that's like, oh, like I'll just do that later or something. Like you're negotiating that with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, yeah, I never thought about that really till you said that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very.
Yeah, and you want to know what? I actually first heard it on a podcast myself by Rob Dial. Rob Dial, the mindset mentor. I listen to him. I listen to every single one of his podcasts, and he's just an amazing guy. And so a lot of these things that I just learned from like other podcasters and stuff. And it really made the timing that I listened to it too was just so powerful, because I found that I was negotiating with myself a lot, especially with things like getting up early and going to the gym, because there's 2 goals that I always want to do. And I mean, by now being aware of the negotiating, I still don't wake up early and I still don't go to the gym.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. No, I do wake up early. The gym's situational.
Yeah. Well, it's also weird with Rona.
It is.
It's just awkward.
It is.
It was already hard to go to the gym. Now you have to book yourself into it.
Like I find Anytime Fitness.
Okay, well.
Yeah, you don't have to book yourself into that
Lucky
one.
you.
Yeah. So say what you mean and say with your chest. Even I gotta say, our friendship and you are actually like an influence on this topic. And you have been for me for 4 years with saying things that you mean, because you have no fear when it comes to speaking the truth, being honest, and saying what's on your mind. You're right. It does get you in trouble sometimes. But it doesn't matter. It's besides the point, because what would those things have been if you didn't say it? They would be nothing, and you'd just be kind of, like I said, betraying yourself, right? So I just want to thank you, because you are a big inspiration for this. And I do think about you a lot when it comes to these things, because I'm like, well, would Jenny say it? Would Jenny say it? I'm like, well, of course she would. So I'm like, well, what am I doing then? You just kind of live like you ain't got no fear with any of that. And that's very respected. It is very respected, and it's admired.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I just find it easier in a way.
Where do you find it the most? What section of your life, whether it's family, relationship, business, friendship, what section do you find is the most difficult to say what you mean?
Sometimes I guess I would say in a relationship, like sometimes I feel like I'm maybe like scared of losing someone by like pushing too much of what, maybe like what I want, when really it's like that's really like half the, like you should be in a relationship to be happy, and like, if it's not making you happy and not making you a better person, then it's kind of like, what's the point, right? So if you're not even able to have that courage to say what's really there for you, then that's probably not a very empowering relationship, right? But like I think I've noticed myself sometimes just having that hesitancy, but like not a lot, right?
Do you have any
Like
examples? Sorry to
Um,
put you on the spot, but
I don't know. I think it's more like workability in relationships. Like once you maybe reach a certain level where things are just not working, like you realize that this person has, done this so many times, or like you're just not feeling respected, or maybe you're just not, like, it's just not workable, right? Like you want to have a fit and active lifestyle, and that person just genuinely doesn't care about fitness. There's nothing wrong with that, but they just don't really care. So then you're like, that's just not really that workable for you if you want a partner that's really like into that stuff, right? And so instead of saying to them like, hey, this is like super important to me, and like if this isn't something that you can see yourself like maybe either getting into or like at least trying with me, like if it's, I guess it depends on how far into the relationship too, right? Like this is usually at the beginning when you're learning about each other and stuff. But yeah, it's just what you were saying before, like giving yourself everything and like not letting yourself down by not saying those things. And so like I think I've stayed in some relationships longer than I should have because I wasn't as honest with myself in terms of like, this isn't really working out, this isn't what I want, and I should leave and be on my own and happy and all that. It's kind of like you're hoping it's going to get better, or you're hoping things are going to like change in a way, but those things won't ever change if you don't even like talk about it, right? And so it always starts with conversation and
absolutely
all that. But
and it is a really huge important thing, especially with relationships at the beginning of the relationship to say what you want. Not even to say what you mean, but to say what you want. Like, why are you coming into this relationship? Like, what is it that you want to get out of this relationship? What are the things that you feel like are your needs to fulfill yourself? What is it that you really need in your partner? I feel like a lot of times, like, a lot of relationships, those things go unmissed. And then, you're 6 months in and you're like, but what are we doing? But what is this? Have that conversation, and even if there's people out there who are on like Tinder and Bumble and stuff, and you just want to meet up and hook up, that's dope. But you should have that conversation that you want to meet up and you want to hook up before you hang out, because that person might be looking for a relationship. And a lot of time, people do have those conversations over Tinder because they don't like getting caught up in those scenarios where one person wants to date and the other person doesn't. But for the people who don't, that is also a very important thing.
Yeah. And then, so our first podcast was about time and how like it's like it doesn't really exist, and so there's a lot of like cool things but also like difficult things about time. And that's the same thing with like not really saying what you mean. Like if you think things are just going to get better with time, but like by you kind of like hinting at things or just like
so I'll stick around and wait to see what happens. Like if you put the intention there first of what it is that you want and what it is that you need or you mean, then you don't need to sit there wasting that time and also being left in the dark. So that's one huge thing I think is like insanely important in relationships, is to not have anybody left in the dark, and that is only done by saying what you mean and saying what you need. Like a couple of years ago, there was a point that I was like dating 3 people, right? And they all knew about each other. And the only reason why I find that to be okay and all right is because I told each individual, hey, you know what? I've met another person in my life, and I want to see them as well. Like, I just want you to know that this is what it is. And if you're okay with this, then great. And if you're not, then we'll address that then. But the only reason why that's okay is because I told them. Because I know for me as a female, when I'm hanging out with a guy and he's got 3 girls on the go, it'd be nice to know. It would be nice to know. It would be, because the thing is a lot of guys, what they don't get is there's some girls out there who are really fine with that and who don't care. All they want is that respect to say, hey, I want you to know that I am sleeping with other people, that I am seeing other people,
Yeah. Honesty.
Exactly. Yeah. One thing that I did want to talk about as well since we're kind of like around this realm of the topic, is when it comes to sexual things, when you are a female and you're uncomfortable
Oh, geez.
and you don't know how to say no.
Yeah, saying what you mean, saying it with your chest.
Yeah. So I found myself when I was growing up, a lot of times I was hanging out with older guys. I was hanging out with some guys around my age. Actually, no guys around my age. I was hanging out with older guys. That was a lie. I meant like not too far from my age. But and I don't know. There was a disconnect in the sense that I was younger, I was vulnerable, and maybe they were older and they had more experience. And you know, you sext, you talk, and a lot of things seem like they're going to be going that direction. But when it comes down to it, you don't want to anymore, and that's okay. But the thing about that is being a woman in this day and on this earth around these humans, you have to know how to say no. If you are any of the littlest, tiniest bit uncomfortable with anything that is going on, you have to know how to say no. Because if you don't say no, all of a sudden you got somebody feeling up on you, right? And you're uncomfortable with that. And then you're betraying yourself. You're completely betraying yourself. In that moment, you hate yourself. You're hurting. Even afterwards, you're like, why did I let that happen, right? And it's just like, I'm not talking about like rape or anything. I'm not talking about anything crazy. I'm just talking about like, even if a guy has got like his hand here on you, just touching you, like whatever it is, it's just
Totally. There was actually
important.
a guy at a party like a couple months ago. Not a big party. Corona life. But yeah, and he was like really close to me. Like the balcony was very, very narrow, but still he like walked right behind me, and you know, I felt him like rub up on me, and I was like, could you like not do that? And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, like I didn't know it like bothered you. I was like, yeah, you're like touching me, like just don't. And then yeah, I was like, if my boyfriend was here, you would not be doing that. He's like, well, he's not. And I was like, okay, well, I'm asking you to not.
Yeah, well,
like,
I'm here and I'm saying no.
Yeah. Just like the fact that was his response too. It was like, oh, well, he's not here. It's like, oh, so that makes you feel like it's okay to do that to someone? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he started like really like being a bit too much on one of my friends.
And on the other side of that whole topic as well is, if you were a male and you were watching this, understand what no means and understand what body language is. There is no reason that you should be out and even having sex and talking to girls if you can't read body language. And I don't know who these people, actually I do know who these people are, but what I don't understand is how they can't pick up on the cues. If someone's like this,
some of them just don't care.
Some of them just don't care, but some of them also are just extremely naive and don't know. You know, and that's a lot of the time, in my experience, that's the case, right? It's because
like
you're not
timidness.
Exactly.
So they need to step up and say what's on their mind and say it with their chest, right? Do you want to be doing this? Are you comfortable with this? Isn't that ironic?
I mean, usually that question, I don't know, Jenny, have you ever been having sex with a man?
No, before
and
sex.
He's looked at,
this is like before.
Okay. Have you ever, before sex, had as man ever said, are you okay with this? Are you comfortable with this? Because that sounds kind of weird. Usually, it's up to the person. If things are going in that direction, it's up to the person who's uncomfortable to voice that they are uncomfortable. I mean, there's nothing wrong with asking, but there shouldn't be anything wrong. And if there is something wrong, you should say it. Yeah.
I guess those are the people that have maybe done things and then it come back to them. And so maybe they're out of their experiences now asking, like, is everything okay? Because, like, in the past, it hasn't been okay, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't like that question either. No, it's very awkward. It's like, if things weren't okay, I probably would have said it. But, like, that's...
Yeah, it's like, oh, like, is this okay with you? It makes me feel like, I don't know, like, is
No, I know,
okay
it's very awkward, but it's like, yeah, it's almost like better safe than sorry, which is then kind of...
Yeah.
You're like, I don't like it, though.
Pretty much.
It's a balance, I guess.
It is a balance.
Life is a balance.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. But yeah, so just to sum up everything all around what we were talking about, say what you mean and say it with your chest. So the say it with your chest part, where we're getting at with that is when you have something to say, when you need to explain something, when you need to ask a question, carry the confidence in knowing what it is that you are talking about. Therefore, you have to know what you want and what you are talking about. Before you go into these things, know what it is that you're asking for first, know what it is, what you're looking for, what you want. And when you go into it, say exactly what it is that you mean, and you speak with your chest. You say with your chest. You open up and you talk here. You don't need to be down here and doing this like when I'm trying to ask my boyfriend for Uber Eats dinner, you know? You don't need to be like that. You got to be up here and just like be assertive. Be assertive, because you're going to feel a lot better about yourself. You're going to feel a lot less self-betrayal, which is an internal thing that people go through on a daily and don't even actually realize that that is what it is, that you're constantly betraying yourself and it feels crappy, right? It's lack of self-love. But yeah, I kind of just lost my thought there, not going to lie.
That's okay. I was going to add something in. Me and my girlfriend went to, I forget what it's called now at this point, but it was like a kind of like mini, not conference, but they put it on every month or so. Oh, it's called Life App. I like my memory sometimes. Yeah.
There you go.
Life App. But it's about love and like how to express love in different ways in all different kinds of love and stuff, right? Which is funny about your post today. And so it was really amazing. Like the speakers were talking about how so often we'll think of something like, you know, you look really nice today. And instead of just like saying it, we'll just think it. And just like, how crazy is that? That we'll go through so many moments of our lives with people we love that will think things like, I love you so much, or like, you're so strong, or whatever it is, and we just won't say it, even though we've thought it. So we've already thought it, we've already said it to ourselves.
Yeah.
But the person that it's actually about, that you want to know that you're like, you love them, you're not going to say it.
And the problem with that also is that they have this expectation that you already know.
Exactly.
And the truth is even if I do know, guess what? I like to hear it.
Exactly.
I like to hear it.
And that's what creates more love, is by sharing that and like having your partner or your friend or your family know that. So
exactly,
that was a really big kind of game changer in a way. Yeah. Just noticing it too, like that you're not doing it. Because you realize, you're like, why would I not say like it out loud? Like,
exactly,
why would you say it in your head and not?
I'm just pulling up this post that she's talking about that I just posted yesterday. So this is a post that I post every single year because it is something that I stand beside 100%. And only in my teen years did I actually start practicing these things with my friends. And I got to tell you, my friendships, my life, my love for myself and everything around me has just enhanced immensely. So here it is. Kiss your friends' faces more. Destroy the belief that intimacy must be reserved for monogamous relationships. Be more loving. Embrace platonic intimacy. Embrace vulnerability. Use emotionality as a radical tactic against a society which teaches you that emotions are a sign of weakness. Tell people that you care about them. Hold their hands. Tell others that you are proud of them. Offer support readily. And take care of the people around you. And so, for me, that is like, I'm never afraid to tell my friends I love them. You know that. I tell you I love you almost every freaking day, you know? And it's just like, it's also all these things with say what you mean and say with your chest all come onto the positive sides of things as well. When you see someone that you're proud of, that you're happy for, tell them. Because it's not just about vocalizing your feelings, which is always a good thing. It's also about just being able to share that love and having what they feel out of these things. You have no idea what they
That's
could
actually
feel.
what they were saying.
Yeah.
A bit. It was like, you might think saying I love you is just going to make them feel like, oh, cool, thanks, I love you too. But it actually could be like something so much more than that, or anything. Yeah, just acknowledgement.
Absolutely.
So it's funny that you say that.
Yeah.
It's like, you know.
Yeah. It's like almost like I do know or something. But I just like, you know, when people tell me that they're proud of me or that I'm doing good or that they love me or whatever it is, it makes me feel, it doesn't matter how many times I hear it. Sometimes I hear it more than once a day. And it does not matter how many times I hear these things. That is why I am such a happy person. That is why I have so much freaking love to give, is because of like just embracing yourself in all of it. Like, why not spread love? Why not say all these things? If somebody's walking past you on the street and she's so gorgeous, or she's got really great shoes or really great hair, tell her. Why? Because it will make her day guaranteed, because especially hearing things from strangers is a huge thing. It's because it's like, you have no reason to go out of your day to stop what you're doing to say something nice to me. You took your precious time to say something nice to a stranger with getting absolutely nothing back. And that's the thing too, is even when giving compliments or saying what you mean, you do those things for yourself. You don't do those things for reactions. You don't do those things because you want it back. You don't do those things because you genuinely want to do those things.
Yeah. And it's authentic, right? Like,
it is.
Yeah. Authenticness.
Yeah.
Realness.
So I think I'm pretty much wrapped up here. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty wrapped up.
Feeling pretty wrapped up. That's great. Well, I just want to say thank you for coming on to my podcast with me. It has been a pleasure. And I'm going to end this episode like every other episode. Keep smiling. And don't forget to subscribe.
You're so cute.
I love you. Thanks.
Love you too.
That's it. We're done.